KOC,
HD3 Detroit,
KJAQ,
HD3 Seattle,
WBMX,
HD3 Boston, and on AOL Radio and Yahoo Launchcast. Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL. New skyradio.com.
Who was Gray Barker? What are your favorite paranormal movies? What do Hollywood and the independent studios have for us next?
Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the 159th broadcast of Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. And here on CBS New Sky Radio and www.newskyradio.com. I'm Ben, and asking those incisive questions was my co-host and partner in the paranormal, my dad.
Let's get right to our guests, everybody. And making his second appearance on the show is Bob Wilkinson, a documentary director, producer, carving out a unique voice within the genre. Working through West Virginia Public Broadcasting, Bob produced Rounding Third, a history of minor league Wyatt Powell Ballpark, John Brown's Body, a look at the lasting legacy of John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry before the Civil War, and Homestead, a history of the Homestead movement in West Virginia. Shades of Grey, our first topic tonight, is Wilkinson's feature-length film focusing on the life of controversial UFO provocateur and pioneer Gray Barker. Now available on DVD, it has garnered excellent reviews and awards, and currently Bob is working on Romeo Must Hang. The piece details the exploits of 1930s serial killer Harry Powers, the inspiration for the Hollywood classic Night of the Hunter. Also joining us tonight as a sort of surprise guest is Jeffrey Tinnell, motion picture producer and publisher of graphic novels. Following work as a freelance production manager and producer, Jeff co-founded the award-winning Los Angeles-based production company Desert Music Pictures in 1989. DMP generated over $20 million in gross production revenue annually. Jeff left the company in 1995 to concentrate solely on feature film production. I was about to say desert music production because I'm hungry. Anyway, over the years he has produced a wide range of television specials, music videos, and commercials with Desert Music Productions, as well as other companies such as Propaganda Films. Among feature films, Jeff has produced an assortment of projects including Young Goodman Brown, The Kid, Frankenstein and Me, and the popular French-Canadian hockey films Les Boys 1 and 2. He also produced the elaborate title sequence for Blake Edwards' comedy Son of the Pink Panther. In 2009, through his production entity Allegheny Image Factory, Jeff released Bob Wilkinson's film Shades of Grey, which brings us right back to the starting gate.
All right, so Bob Wilkinson and Jeff Tinnell, welcome to Behind the Paranormal.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. It's always good to have you fellas.
Right, and today our call-in numbers are 248-545-SOUL, and that is 248-545-7685. All right, so to start us off, Bob and Jeff, tell us about Gray Barker and why you made Shades of Grey.
You fellas can take.
Well, I think Bob would be a good place to start with, and have him give his take, and then we can go through the genesis of how it grew from there.
Sure, take it away, Bob.
Yeah. I discovered Gray Barker just reading a publication just about oddities in West Virginia, and decided to make a trip. I think his collection up there in Clarksburg at the Harrison Public Library was called X-Files, kept in West Virginia. Something along those lines, relating to the X-Files TV show that was popular at the time. And just decided to make a trip up there. I've always been interested in unique stories in West Virginia since this is I was born in West Virginia. I've always lived here, and just to find this great story in my own backyard, and drove to the archive and library, and just to discover all these stories that Gray Barker had been a part of, such as the Philadelphia Experiment, the Men in Black, Mothman, the Braxton County Monster, and just the history in the UFO field that he had gathered from the 1950s to the 1980s.
Yeah, a lot of cases we've covered on this show, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and it was just, a perfect subject to, he's really he really doesn't get the credit he deserves for as really a historian in the UFO field, and I thought what a great story to tell. Not only his UFO life, but Gray Barker. Who is Gray Barker? This man also, aside from the history of the field.
Well, that's it. Yeah. Very controversial fellow.
Yeah, a lot of people tend to try to discredit Gray because of the wilder side. He had a fun side to him, and I think a lot of the UFO guys in the 1950s did have that. They had fun with the field, and I think the important things he has done tends to get overlooked because of the wilder side of Gray Barker.
Okay, yeah. Well, the wilder side, obviously you have great respect for him, and so do I. The wilder side includes, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, having faked a letter to the State Department, from the State Department, to UFO contactee George Adamski, who was a big name in the 50s and 60s. When I was a kid, I read a couple of his books. This? There is some current of thought that he didn't really believe in the UFO thing, at least not in the way that he stated that he did publicly. Do you think there's any truth to that?
Yeah. Well, I think it's tough to speculate, of course, what his beliefs were. I think deep down
I never knew him.
Gray Barker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did believe deep down inside, and I think that he didn't do himself he did himself a disservice by like you said, sending a phony letter to George Adamski and some of the UFO films that he made.
Yeah.
I think he did a disservice to himself, and he was a collector of wild stories, and it was interesting. I found a radio show that was with him and Jackie Gleason on the Long John Nebel show. And Gray Barker had told Long John Nebel that he had this letter, and a UFO was going to pick him up and take him to an island off of Brazil, and they were going to talk about the whole situation of interplanetary relations.
Yeah.
And Jackie Gleason heard this show, so he took a little offense to it, called into the next show, and he told Gray, he's like, Gray, where's your integrity? What is with this? And Gray told him, he's like, look, I don't know if I believe what they gave me in that letter, but I'm not going to be the guy who discredits them and doesn't get to ride on this spaceship, so I plan to be there. And he's like, and Mr. Gleason, I hope you're there with me. And so I think that kind of sums up where Gray stood.
I see. Okay, well, I guess Ben had a question here about your own personal opinions.
Yeah, what is your opinion of Gray Barker's work? Why did he choose to be so controversial? Just that kind of personality, or what?
I think so. I think he had like this. I mean, I would say that the best way I could describe Gray Barker was a British comedy, because he had that
like
really
Monty Python kind of. Yeah. Like a Monty Python kind of humor? Oh, we like that.
Oh, yeah.
and really, really dry sense of humor, where if you didn't really know that he was telling you, if you weren't in on it, then you probably would miss the joke. And so I think he had that highbrow sense of humor, and I think that played into a lot of his writing.
I also think you have to take the historical context when a lot of this began to pop, in the sense that World War II changed so much in terms of technology and communication, the way people saw the world, that after the atomic age began and people started to think that a lot of what used to be quote-unquote science fiction could become reality. And I think there became this, I don't know if it's an obsession by the public, but it certainly became more prevalent. And, it landed into itself where just a few weeks ago was the 40th anniversary of man walking on the moon. So people, I think, really started to, quote-unquote, look to the skies. And I think that Gray Barker
was one of those.
And the film touches upon it. I think that, he found a place. He found this thing that was of interest, and people were interested in it. And I think there was a way to carve himself a place of being somebody, being a guy from a small town, and he was educated and he was talented as a writer, and he found a place where he could create a voice for himself. And I think it expanded upon that. So I actually think his opinions of things probably evolved over the course of his career, if you will.
Okay. Now, I understand. Now, this isn't a gossip show, obviously, but I mean, I understand that he did not always see eye to eye with John Keel, who was a journalist and another major player in particularly the Mothman episode, and he was the author of the book, The Mothman Prophecies. I mean, I know, obviously, do you deal with that in the movie, their relations?
Yeah, we touch upon obviously they both were there together at the Mothman incident, and they both interviewed a lot of the witnesses, and for a time, they were planning to collaborate on a book, and they didn't, for some reason, they had a falling out with that.
Speaking as an author, that's a hard thing to do with anyone. Yeah,
that never happens, right?
Yeah. And, it probably had a lot to do with ego. I kind of see John Keel and Gray Barker in the same vein, that I think they both took a lot of literary license in their writings. And I think when I read the Mothman Prophecies, I kind of see that too. I see a little bit of Gray Barker in the book, his style that,
he's mentioned.
I think he did take a little bit of liberties.
Yeah.
As far as John Keel, I think John Keel took as many liberties as Gray Barker. I don't think Keel was much into the hoaxing and things. He just put it in his books.
Well, Keel supposedly admitted that he did, which surprised me, as a professional journalist, that he was, and that's my background too. I was a little surprised at that. But nevertheless, both are big names in the Mothman episode, and there we are. So there's another name, but I'll bring it back up if I can remember. Someone else was involved in that. I wondered if you had dealt with in the movie. But okay, so without giving away too much, because we're coming up on a break here, why don't we actually why don't I wait till after the break for this question, because I wanted to ask you, to tell us about the film, without giving it away. And,
that's gonna take it's gonna take
more than a minute. And what instance? So it is out on DVD, and
yes, you can find it. You can find it. It's all the places from Netflix to Blockbuster. Search online. You can also go to theyknewtoomuch.com, which is the main website for the film.
Yep.
And that'll link you up to where you can order and buy it. So
great. Well, we'll give you a chance to talk about that at the end as well, just so people will know. But we're ready to take a commercial break here on Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno, and we'll be right back on CBS New Sky Radio, newskyradio.com. Stay with us.
CBS Radio's The New Sky. NewSkyRadio.com. Across the Veil with April Lugo.
Join April Lugo each Tuesday night at 7 for Across the Veil. Across the Veil is a show that promises to be a unique experience as April connects and communicates with those who are across the veil. April receives guidance and wisdom from the ancients, angels, masters, teachers, and guides, as well as hearing messages from those who have preceded us across the veil, family, friends, and loved ones alike. The program is an excellent opportunity for you to hear from those who are across the veil. April will be answering questions and giving insight. That's the main reason for the program. Across the Veil at 7 Tuesday on The Sky.
Look up to the sky. Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Reach out. NewSkyRadio.com.
Half angel, half tongue. Giant copperhead.
Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL. New skyradio.com. Believe.
Okay, and Ben and I are very happy today to be welcoming Jeff Tinnell and Bob Wilkinson of the of many talents and many credentials, but also particularly talking about their movie Shades of Grey, about Ray Barker, the fascinating UFO character and expert and pioneer and provocateur, you might say, from the 50s and 60s. So, fellas, why don't you tell us about the comment I was going to make before we finished talking about John Keel and his relationship with Ray Barker was, I am astounded, and I've been in this field for 40 years. Ben's just starting out. He's only been doing about 5. At the egos and the politics that go on. I mean, to me, we're dealing with something that is so awesome, it should leave us in absolute humility and silence with a deep appreciation for each other. And I don't know where these guys are coming from. You know, the egos are incredible.
Well, I think you find that in subculture. I mean, Bob, what I was going to say is I think you find that in subculture in general. I mean, look what just recently happened with the global warming and a lot of the science and then academia where they were all fighting back and forth about data. I mean, I think that folks carve out a niche for themselves in a place, become a quote-unquote expert, and many are. I'm not, I don't get into who does or who doesn't, but I think it becomes very territorial. So I think that's a lot of it as well.
I couldn't agree more.
You get proprietary information, and you gotta protect what you've got, because if you're going to make a living off your proprietary information, you got to keep it. That's
true. That's true. And then you wonder about
it depends on what you're in it for.
Yeah, it's true.
If you're in it to make a living off of, then you do have to wonder: is it science? Is it for the betterment of people, or is it your gravy train? And I think for a lot of people, that's their meal ticket.
So let's get into the film Shades of Grey. Now, without giving it all away, I mean, what can you tell us? Is this a story? And I'm ashamed to say I have not seen it yet. I do plan to see it, but it just came out recently. Is it about Barker's whole life, or just his career in the UFO field? How does it go? What happens in the film, and who are you dealing with?
Well, it's a film about his entire life, because I think. One of your earlier questions about what he believes or what he doesn't believe, I think you have to see about his life to understand it. And there's some very poignant moments in it that I think gives a pretty nice insight. And we're fortunate enough Bob did a great job, which is one of his better skills. He's obviously he's a good filmmaker, but he has a way of making people feel comfortable with him and speaking with him. And that's an art form in itself, to do that kind of interview process. And I think that once he delved into it, you got an idea who the guy was and where he was coming from. And you get I actually gained, I won't say I didn't have a respectful opinion of him. I don't think I had any kind of opinion when we first started the process together. But you kind of get where he's from. And you see people from both facets, believers, non-believers, and they all kind of had I think they all liked him. I think he was a likable person but was a complex person. And you see that in this film.
What was his family life like?
He grew up in really the middle of West Virginia, which is a really remote rural area.
Yeah.
He grew up in a town called Riffle, and he was the first in his family to get a college education. He walked to school. It was one of those stories you hear people tell. But I mean, for Gray, it was a true deal. And he was driven to become educated, and so he walked 2 or 3 miles over the mountain to get to the bus stop where he could get to school.
Yeah, uphill both ways.
Driven to go to college.
Yeah.
And
But he came up. He did come up. He did come up very rough.
Yeah.
I mean, in the sense of what most people around there were.
Sure.
Yeah, and the family members today are still, they live a simpler life, I guess is the best way to put it. There's no that part of West Virginia is. I mean, I myself love it, so I'm not speaking bad about it. But it's a slower life. There's no hustle and bustle. There's no rush, and it's just a laid back kind of life.
I wouldn't mind retiring.
He grew up
in West Virginia. Yeah.
And he became, within his own family, he became, somewhat of a hero in the sense of he's the guy that got out. I mean, he traveled around the United States, and was a guy that went to New York City. He was a guy that was in California and went to various places. He was known. He was published. Those types of things. So they still speak. And he's been dead since 1984. Correct, Bob?
Yeah, 84.
Yeah.
So, it's been some time, but he was thought of in pretty, high terms within the local community, if you will, where he's from.
How did he get into UFOs?
As best I can tell, he always had an interest in it as a child. As far as he was a fan of horror films and science fiction, and he always had an interest in UFOs and what is there to this question of is there life out there outside of our planet? And when he was a member with the International Flying Saucer Bureau. No, this was before the International Flying Saucer Bureau. Fate magazine sent him a fax and said, "Hey, won't you cover this incident that happened down in Braxton County, which was Mrs. May and the children saw up on the hill."
1952 Flatwoods incident.
And that was really his first break, where he broke into the field. Because the Fate magazine said, "Check this out," and he ended up publishing an article, and his first article went into Fate magazine.
Oh yeah, well, boy, I tell you that makes me nostalgic. My first articles were in Fate, also, 1980s.
Really? That's awesome. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you, it's all of us old timers. You had to be published in Fate magazine. That was the thing. And
really? So that was a thing to be done. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, well that's interesting. And now, did he have personal UFO experiences that influenced him at any point in the film?
No, I don't think Gray had any contact or any kind of experience where he would,
I think some of the tagline is where you peel the layers away from the onion. There's a giveaway is one person says, at some point I don't think I ever knew what Gray really believed ever.
Yeah.
And Richard Taylor said in the film, you know what? Come to think of it, he never gave me his personal opinion about anything. And it's at that point, you're like, aha.
And I think part of what maybe got him in trouble at times, when you spoke earlier about the straight letter or some of the things when the FBI questioned them about some of the hoaxing that was going on, I think that I think this gentleman was a great storyteller.
Yeah.
Just in life in general. I think he's a person that could have walked in. He was a salesman. He was a film booker for drive-ins, and so he's a salesman. And I think he had a great way of disarming people and could spin a yarn. And just in life in general. So, and I think that then he found a way that he could get people comfortable around him. I think that's why once he started writing a book, and then when he started publishing his magazine, that folks, they saw him as this person that would listen and was non-judgmental about it. But we've not come across anything where it was just totally factual that, he saw the light in the sky or something.
Yeah. No. It is amazing. Now, Stan Friedman will tell you the same thing. The closest, as far as I know, at least as far as Stan has told me, that he was in New Hampshire or Vermont a year or two ago, and people said there had been a sighting outside where he was, and they all ran outside, and he himself. But and he's been doing this longer than I have. Like over 50 years, and he's never seen anything that he could actually describe as a flying saucer, as he would say. But in any case, then there are a lot of people who've been involved in ghost research. They say they've been involved for 10 years and have never seen anything. I, unfortunately, have seen all kinds of things, including things that have been physically harmful. Been injured on several occasions by poltergeists. But what are you going to do? Okay, let's... what are the most exciting parts of the movie to you?
I would sit and say that one that really pops out to me is that when the Lost Creek Flying Saucer episode, where there was this quote-unquote famous film documentation of a UFO that they had, and then through the archives at the Harrison County Public Library in Clarksburg, West Virginia, to find the basically production stills of how they did it. And there's always the tagline in the film industry, the willing suspension of disbelief. Mm-hmm. And you kind of see it put together. So here was something that was a hoax, and to get to see that's pretty exciting. And I know that when Bob found the material and said, you got to see this stuff, and you look at it and how it's put together, and it's a guy running down, a la the old TV show The Invaders, running down a deserted road, and there's this, he points, and then there's a flying saucer, and this whole type of thing. So to me, in a historical aspect of looking at it, was like, wow, we're getting to see something very few people have seen for quite some time, if ever, and we see that in the film, but also getting to see how they did it. That to me was pretty fun. That was pretty exciting.
Interesting. Would you call Barker entirely neutral in this field, or would you call him a debunker? Or neither?
I would call him. I think he was a conduit to whatever story anybody wanted to tell.
Okay, so he was pretty neutral.
I think he was a collector. I almost see like myself. Like when we were talking, you go and when I go into an interview, I listen to people. I'm not there to tell my opinion or try to change the story they're telling or anything. I want to hear your story, and I want to document it.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and that's all I'm looking to do. And I think Barker was the same way, that someone would tell him a story, and he basically said, "Here's the story." And it was like even in Ray Palmer, the early publications, Amazing Stories. Could this be true? Yeah. Is this true? He always left that open to the audience, and you interpret yourself, and you do your research, and you
I agree
find
with
out.
that. Oh yeah.
I think that's.
Well, I think it's like anything, especially in the world of paranormal, when you talk about UFOs or ghosts or any of these types of things. Over the years, especially when you're working in a creative medium and you write a story or you make a film or write a song and you want it to be interpreted. And I used to, when I was younger and first got in this, I'd get frustrated when I'd be like, why don't they get this, or don't they see it? And now, much of what Bob just said is, if they believe it, then it's real. And you can, the more that you try to tear something down that a person believes, a la religion, I guess you could say for someone, or UFOs, if they believe it, who's it your place to tell them it's not? How can it's the old, if you can't see it, how do you know it's true? Well, I'm saying I look around and it is true. So I think he was one of those people. I think he liked to tell a good story, but I also think he liked to listen to good stories as well.
Interesting. Okay. What other famous incidents are dealt with in the film? Famous UFO incidents.
Famous incidents. It gives a little bit of background on the Philadelphia experiment, Carlos Allende, where the government supposedly cloaked a ship in invisibility.
Right.
It talks a little bit about the genesis of the Men in Black, as far as, I would say, popular culture, because I talked to Jerry Clark, and you can go throughout history, and there's always been documentation of mysterious figures, but the genesis of the Men in Black, as the term Men in Black, was in Barker's book. They knew too much about flying saucers.
Yeah, Jerry
Clark.
Clark.
The first time it was ever called the Men.
Sure, just Jerry Clark being a former editor at Fate magazine, and also a very, very competent and articulate researcher in his own right.
Yep.
Just to explain who Jerry is.
And he's in the film also.
He's in the film as well, and we have Mothman Prophecies, the Flatwoods Monster.
Yeah.
So obviously the Straits letter that you talked about, it runs the full gamut of what Barker was involved with. And I think we're fortunate enough with the research that Bob put into it, he came across and really dug in and got a lot of people. So we see it, and how we try to approach in the new film that he's working on as well is there's got to be a hook, and it's not just the standard talking head hook. There needs to be that hook where you're going to get a different perspective. We get the respected quote-unquote journalist. We get the author. We get the expert. We get the person who has had their experiences. We get people that know them closely. So it's more for the viewer to look, and you make your decision with certain things, if you will.
Sure.
And it's introductory, but I think it's done.
Yeah.
It's a combination of recreations, archival footage, and great interviews.
Excellent. Okay, well, we have to wrap for a break, and we'll be right back on Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno on CBS New Sky Radio, newskyradio.com. Stay with us.
CBS Radio's The New Sky. newskyradio.com. This is the Lisa J. Smith Show.
Listen to Lisa J now at 3 o'clock Eastern. This is Lisa J. Smith, and I am here to give you messages from Spirit. Give us a call so I can connect with you.
Look up to the sky. Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Reach out, newskyradio.com.
Drove downtown in the rain, 9:30 on a Tuesday night, just to check out the late night record shop. Call it imposing, call it composing, call it insane. But when I'm surrounded, I just can't stop. It's a matter of instinct, it's a matter of conditioning, a matter of fact. You can call me Pavlov's dog. Ring a bell and I'll salivate. How'd you like that? Dr. Landy, tell me you're not just a pedagogue. 'Cause right now I'm lying in bed, just like Brian Wilson did. Well, I'm lying in bed, just like Brian Wilson did.
Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL. newskyradio.com.
Okay, we are back, and I'm going to ask Ben. He went running off into the blue temporarily here. I'll be right back, but I want to start with his question. To kind of broaden our topic this evening as well, we've been, of course, talking with Bob Wilkinson and Jeff Tinnell of the marvelous new film Shades of Grey, about the life of Gray Barker. Fascinating in himself, a UFO aficionado, expert, one of the first pioneers in the field, and something of a provocateur in the field as well. Now, fellas, Ben wants to know here, what's your own opinion of the paranormal? Just yourselves. I mean, you made this themed film here about this, and have either of you ever had experiences of your own, and what got you interested in it? Do you believe it's true? Bunch of baloney? What? Take your turn.
I mean, I've always been open to, to the things that are around me. I've just, for my own benefit, I've gone ghost hunting with a team of ghost hunters. I've gone Bigfoot searching. I like to call it searching, not hunting, because you don't want to shoot the poor creature
of course.
if you find him. So searching for Bigfoot with a team of Bigfoot searchers. You keep wanting to say hunters, but you know, I'm trying to avoid that.
Yeah,
I
don't like that term.
Somebody finding him and shooting him, and so I mean, I'm willing to experience whatever. I'll go with people, and you know, myself, I've never had any kind of experience to say, hey, Bob, here's your hard evidence. But I mean, you know, I think it's pretty shallow of me if I were to say, no, it's not possible.
Yeah.
That there are not other life forms out there. There's not this other dimension where, you know, these other spirits would bleed into this dimension, or if someone lingers around after death. I'm not sure what happens, but, you know, definitely not closed-minded to the subject. And I would say skeptical, but not in the sense that people, not in the bad word that people kind of make that out to be, because I believe we should all be skeptics, even if you do believe in it. You should be skeptical of what evidence is given before you, because I think once you stop being skeptical, you kind of close off your mind to that science side of the field.
Right. What say you, Jeff?
I would have to tell you, yes, I've had some interesting experiences in my life, not in the UFO world, but definitely in the, I guess you would say, ghost world. One would be the fact that my parents at one time lived by the Yorktown, Virginia battlefield, which Yorktown's famous for the quote-unquote end of the American Revolution. There's also the site of a Civil War battle field as well. I think anybody that's ever walked at nighttime on a battlefield a la Gettysburg or something, you definitely feel the presence and the strangeness that was there. And my folks had an older home in Yorktown, Virginia, and this place had some very interesting incidences that occurred in it. The house had a mind of its own, or somebody in it had a mind of its own, and so it's not. I don't think it's too fantastical to think, and I think it can be energy. I think it can be. Why do all these stories and why do all of these, what we're talking about, films exist, if there's not some basis to it? What are they exactly? If I knew that, I'd go to the racetrack today, and instead of trying to make films. But there has to be something more to it. And, yeah, so I do. I've had some strange events that opened my mind a little bit more to possibilities of things and what people are trying to explain. Do I think that there are people that are more in touch and have more open senses to those kind of events around them? I would have to tell you, yes, I do believe that.
Sure. Okay. Well, very good. Ben?
Right.
Take it away.
So what's your opinion of the paranormal media today, if you can call it movies, TV, talk radio, any of that stuff?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's just going to continue. Obviously, there's a popularity that goes with it. I think that some of the media is driven because as our technology has gotten better via the internet, but also or cables where, when I was a kid, we grew up, there were 3 networks. That was it. And
yeah,
PBS.
me too. Yeah.
Now you're in a world where there are hundreds of channels, and they look for content.
Hey, we're still on CBS.
Yeah.
I'm joking. But no, there's an endless supply of,
Oh, there's an endless supply, and they need material. And now the technology's gotten to where you're capable of making programs. That's why you've seen all these ghost hunter shows and those things. And there's an interest in it. There's no doubt there's an interest. They don't make them because people don't watch them.
That's right.
So I think what you're going to see is continual evolvement of the content. What is it? We saw Paranormal Activity that came out last year that was such a huge success, and they made it for nothing, and it was amazing. And there's a film that's being released shortly called Monsters. That the word is that they made this film for $15,000. If you want to do yourself that's the rumor.
Pretty amazing.
But I have to tell you, watch the trailer of it. It's pretty cool. It's an original idea. I'm anxious to see the film. But it's about, there's an infected zone between Mexico and the United States, and there are creatures in it and that type of thing. And it's pretty cool looking. So
what they won't do to guard the border, huh?
Yes, yeah. But I think you'll see, as you watch the content as it comes, it goes up and down. We had our Blair Witch and those types of films. Then all of a sudden we had our Saw and our torture types of, and that kind of horror / genre. And now we're coming back into more. I mean, Michael Bay's getting ready to start a film on Area 51, which means it'll be a big budgeted film about that. So it isn't fading away, that's for sure. And it just evolves into something that evolutionary process just continues on, and that's where I see it. I think that it won't die. It'll continue to change. But a good story is a good story, and I think that's why, again, just for a little bit to go back and talk about Gray Barker, look at the ideas. They're making a new Men in Black. Why? Because it's a story that people like, and it works. And that's where I think it's at right now.
It just, because I'm the, Ben and I, of course, are the eternal idealists and romantics, and we just feel that things need to go somewhere. That all this, particularly in ghost research, I mean, nobody's bringing it all together. I don't know. In 40 years of research, there is a tremendous unity here that people just aren't getting and is not being portrayed. We hope to do it in our show, should that go anywhere. But I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's not going anywhere. There's got to be another step, and of course you could argue about what that step might be. I don't know, but anyway.
Well, I think it has to have some of the validation to it. It's the step to me. And I don't name names or point, and I think anybody can be successful in this world of entertainment, get something on the air or get a film made. I say kudos to them. I can get on my subjective hat and tell you what I think's good or not, but that's the subjective part. From the objective part, it's the validation. Some of these shows, though, they never really give you anything. It just kind of comes around. They talk about it and they make it creepy looking. But what are you really doing? That's what I want to see. I want to see someone come back and.
Well, you see a lot of these shows that are the reality TV and things like that they're personality driven.
Yeah,
that's right. Fellas, we got to wrap for
take it to that next step.
Yeah, we got to wrap for another break here. I'm sorry. We'll continue on Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno on CBS New Sky Radio, newskyradio.com in just a minute. Don't touch that dial.
Psychic Radio, psychiconair.com. The Wake Up Call with Ellen Tom.
But so you're the first kid on the block and you can prove it, because there's similar prototypes, but nothing quite as good as yours. Yes. Yours has more than one application.
Yes, my God, you're brilliant.
Hi, it's Tom Force. Reverend L. Newman and I are here Monday nights, 7 till 9, prime time, Eastern time in the United States, with Wake Up Call on Psychic Radio.
Psychic Radio. We know you're listening. Life is a journey. Let us be your guide. Reach out on the net now, psychiconair.com.
Look for Psychic Radio on your AOL radio player.
Put on my blue suede shoes and I boarded the plane. Touchdown in the land of the Delta Blues, in the middle of the pouring rain. W.C. Handy, won't you look down over me? Yeah, I got a first-class ticket, but I'm as blue as a boy can be. Then I'm walking in Memphis, walking with my feet 10 feet off a beam. Walking in Memphis, but do I really feel the way I feel? Saw the ghost of Elvis on Union Avenue. Followed him up to the gates of Graceland, and I watched him walk right through. Now security, they did not see him. They just hovered around his tomb. But there's a pretty little thing waiting for the king down in the jungle room. When I was walking in Memphis, I was walking with my feet 10 feet off a beam. got a prayer in Memphis. Muriel plays piano every Friday at the Hollywood. And they brought me down to see her, and they asked me if I would do a little number, and I sang with all my might. She said, tell me, are you a Christian child? And I said, ma'am, I am tonight. Walking in Memphis, was walking with my feet 10 feet off a beam. Walking in Memphis, but do I really feel the way I feel? Walking in Memphis.
Psychic Radio is now CBS Radio's The Sky. Back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. Call now 248-545-SOUL. New skyradio.com. Believe.
And we tearfully embrace our final segment here as we wind down our discussion. It's been a really interesting one, I think, about Gray Barker and the new film Shades of Grey, and with our guests Bob Wilkinson and Jeff Tinnell. And we wanted to give both of these fellows a thank you for a wonderful interview, and also a chance to tell us where you can get the film, which is now out on DVD, and what websites you can go to find out more, and what they're working on next. Take it away, fellas.
Well, the great place to find the film, it's Netflix, Blockbuster, Barnes & Noble, any of those places. But you can visit our website, www.theyknewtoomuch.com.
Theyknewtoomuch.com, okay.
They Knew Too, which is based upon the book They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers that Gray Barker wrote. But you can find us there, and it will direct you to ordering and getting the film. And so far the response has been quite good. Our sales have been good. Our reviews have been all positive, which is nice. It's always fun to come out and see it because you don't know. It's the public, and that's who you're making this for, and want to see what they have. We've been covered with, like, Ain't It Cool News, Film Critic. A couple of different places have helped us quite a bit. So the response has been good, and we hope to keep pushing the film. We appreciate you all having us on here and giving us a chance to talk and get to your listeners. I know you did it earlier with Bob, but I do appreciate the time. It's been good.
It's been, yeah, it has been. Ben, have any further questions?
No, they pretty much covered everything.
Okay, excellent. Well, we look forward to seeing it. And fellas, again, the best of luck, and I can't wait to see it. And we're certainly going to have you back after I see it. I'll have some more intelligent questions, I hope. And best of luck to both of you. And what you said? Are you working on a new film? Before we go,
our new project is about Harry Powers, the man who's Night of the Hunter, with Robert Mitchum and Shelley Winters.
Yeah,
was based upon. Serial murder, 1930s, Clarksburg, West Virginia. Ended up doing time in Moundsville Prison, which is a popular ghost hunting destination. So he was hung there by the state of West Virginia. So someone along the way could have had a conversation with him here or there.
Oh, look. Okay, very good. Well, fellas, thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Have a good one.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay, very good.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Jeff Tinnell and our good friend Bob Wilkinson. Movie Shades of Grey. Okay. Now, before we wrap up today, there's been something I wanted to get to for weeks here, and we just have not had time. And I said I'm going to make time tonight for it.
I'm very in advance. This is kind of a ridiculous story, but who knows if it's true or not? So
yeah, well, I don't know if it's ridiculous. Anything can happen in Russia. And this is a story, and this is not an email. This is a story we garnered from the news here. Our good friend Linda Moulton Howe, who we will have on later this month, not on this station, but on another one of our Rendlesham specials. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, this is a Russian hunter claims he has saved something that can only be described as Bigfoot from a frozen river in central Siberia. Not something you hear every day.
Well, they're Russian.
Well, hey, you're 1/4 Russian.
I know.
On your mom's side. Russian news agency Itar Tass quoted a source in the administration of the Tashtagol district in the Perm region as saying that the incident took place in April this year near the village of... Here, you can read Russian better than I can. Szymanskaya Kichi?
Szymanskaya Kichi, yeah.
All right. The village is located 140 kilometers away from the nearest human settlement, and the only connection with its residents is by helicopter. The latest flight to the village brought back a written report about the encounter with the so-called Bigfoot. The letter read that professional hunter Afanasy Kishkarov, together with several other hunters, was fishing when they heard a loud cracking of ice and a howl. When they approached the source of the noise, the hunters saw an unusual creature described as, quote, like a huge man covered in dark brown fur, unquote. The creature was in the river about 10 meters from the bank, and then it unsuccessfully tried to get out of the water and stand upright. Kishkarov rushed to the rescue and reached out for the drowning creature with a dry tree branch. Quote, Bigfoot then grabbed the branch, got onto shore, and just walked away. Geez, I think he at least said thank you. Authorities in the Kemerovo region have repeatedly released stories of Bigfoot sightings over the past few years. According to them, those interested in cryptozoology could help to develop the Siberian tourism industry. Well, now that might be a giveaway to it.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, should this actually have happened, and I think it's very interesting, sort of, it's always nice to see interspecies cooperation here, okay? And we are running out of time, but I want to take just one little bit to tell you about a very interesting experience Ben and I had in the Freetown State Forest in Massachusetts. We're checking that area out for a possible TV episode. And it was really odd. It was a Friday, middle of July, completely deserted. Very, very rural area. And we got some interesting photos. And I suppose we should probably put them up on the talking points, talk about them next time.
Maybe.
Anyway.
Well, it's a little bit of a teaser.
Let's do our closing anyway and see what we're having here. Let me just say that we want to thank our producer, of course, Will Kosnick. See you next week, Sunday, August 8th, right here on CBS News Sky Radio and online at newskyradio.com. Our guest will be the renowned and sometimes controversial parapsychologist, Dr. Barry Taff, who believes the paranormal will lead us into the future.
Well, we'll see. And check out our show website at www.behindtheparanormal.com and your local radio schedules for cities where CBS carries the show, and the websites where you can hear us from anywhere. And remember, you can always get free podcasts of all our shows. That's all our shows, along with some schedules and guest information at www.behindtheparanormal.com.
And on our regular Monday evening drive time show in the Boston, Worcester, Providence area tomorrow, we'll be doing a surprise rerun because Ben and I will be tied up with TV filming. In the meantime, we leave you with a different sort of a quote than we usually do. This not-so-prophetic one is from silent film actress Mary Pickford. Adding sound to movies would be like putting lipstick on the Venus de Milo.
See you next week.